Good evening, sighted friends. Mitty Man coming at you again from Walks Music. Yet another word. We are bringing you a nightly word. Thursday, matter of fact, I should say Wednesday night edition. We give God all the praise and honor and glory for life, health, and strength for the way as it is. And we also thank God for each and every one of you. I titled this video tonight, The Feast of Passover. There's a lot of talk going on about Passover this year than I think any other time that I can remember is being discussed. First of all, people, we need to know, and I hope that some of the participants and the co-laborers of the Bible study will get a chance to see this video, because I want to point out a couple of things. First of all, we got to understand that a lot of people are saying, and they're teaching, you got everybody, you got all of your mainstream preachers and teachers, they're teaching, and everybody done wrote a book, just about everybody, every hen and the biddy done wrote a book about the blood moon. And I'm not saying I'm no expert on astronomy and none of the above, but I can read, and according to what the Bible says. Now, we know if you go to the book of Genesis, in the creation, God placed the sun and the moon and the stars in the heavens, and he said they would be for what? Signs and seasons. God did tell us that, so you can rest assured that they are up there for signs and seasons. So they do tell us some things. Matter of fact, you got some of your best astrologers and whatnot, and astronomers. Well, mainly, if you wanted to get biblical about it, he was a Jew. His name was Daniel. Daniel was very, very well gifted in the dreams, and as well as Joseph. Joseph also was well gifted in the dreams and the visions, and he had the gift. In other words, God was with them. And matter of fact, we know that when the Jewish people went into captivity into Babylon, that Daniel, as well as his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but now remember, those were their Babylonian names, and they were called wise men, and therefore, and Daniel was the head of all of them. Daniel was the head, because he was, in other words, he was more, I guess you could say, more closer, walk with the Lord more closely, or whatever the reason might be. I don't know, but I know that Daniel was considered very, very highly to the king, Darius as well as others, because Daniel never went back to Jerusalem. Daniel never went back to Israel. He stayed in Babylon. And he, matter of fact, historians say that he died in Babylon. So Daniel never did go back to his homeland. But that's not what I'm trying to say. Just off the top, I just want to tell everybody point blank. I've heard people talking about this blood moon, the one that we are fixing to have here on Saturday night. But I heard this guy say it 15 times it's going to be Friday. And I'm saying, no, that eclipse is not Friday. The eclipse is on a Saturday. But see, no one questioned these people called, quote unquote, they're on TV. They supposed to be well-known big ministries, and they got books written, so everybody that take everything they say for face value. But I'm here to tell you that eclipse is happening on Saturday night. In other words, and matter of fact, we are not going to even see it. According to this, the way the eclipse in the universal time code is going to be mostly seen in the Pacific basin, in that particular area. It's going to be seen in that particular area, and the West Coast. The West Coast will see most of it, just like they did on the last one. We, on the other hand, on the East Coast, we might see just a partial bit of it if we get up very early that Saturday morning. If we get up very early that Saturday morning. Now, according to they said about 6:15, 7 o'clock, 7:15 Eastern Standard Time, we will just see a partial of it. But after that, the moon will be below our below the horizon. So therefore, we won't be able to see it. We will not see the total eclipse. Just wanted to let you know, I don't know why the guy just kept talking about Friday night. Maybe because of the fact that it's the way it's going to happen, and because it's going to happen so early in the morning tide, that maybe he's just saying that on that path. But I'm not really criticizing for that, but I'm just saying that's going to give the specific date was supposed to be on April 4th. April 4th is Saturday, not Friday. So we got to be careful when we just take things for face value. Now, I'm most talking to the Bible study, and the participants, the co-laborers. I don't have followers. Jesus got followers. I don't have no kingdom, so I don't have no followers. We got co-laborers. I started the Bible study, but I have co-laborers, not followers. We are going into the last phase of this tetrad, the last one that we're going to see in our lifetime. We'll never see another one. Those of us that are living now, we'll never see another one. According to the experts, and they have been right so far. I know a lot of people don't like for you to, name certain institutions, but I got to say it. I have to admit, NASA had pinpointed everything from day one all the way up to now. They hadn't been wrong yet, because they got the equipment, just as Daniel and them had. They know that they have the knowledge to pinpoint certain things according to the skies, according to the knowledge that was given by God. So NASA have been right every time. Now, yet to see, come Saturday, we'll see is this year going to be as they predicted. But like I said, the first two happened, and we had the solar eclipse, even though we did not see that either. We did not see it in this hemisphere. We didn't even see the solar eclipse. But nevertheless, it did happen. So what I'm saying, in other words, about this Feast of the Passover, people, this is not a Jewish feast. These feasts are the feast of the Lord. It was 7 feasts that God, these are my feasts. And the main three times a year, all Jewish males were required to go to Jerusalem. They were required to go to Jerusalem and to the temple to celebrate these 3 particular feasts. That was the Feast of Passover, which we are right now in. It was the Feast of Pentecost, that's coming up 50 days after Passover, and the Feast of Tabernacles, that happens in the fall or in the harvest years. Those 3 times of the year, all Jewish males, everyone, didn't make no difference where they were at in the world, they had to come to Jerusalem. So the Feast of Passover commemorated the time when God brought them out of Egypt. And the death angel, that's what a lot of people say. A lot of people say the death angel. But I'm here to sit here tonight to tell you that God came through Egypt. God himself came through Egypt. That's what I read. Now, I don't know what other people read, but God didn't say he sent nothing. God told Moses that I'm going to come through. And wherever I see the blood, I'm going to pass over. God himself came through Egypt to take the firstborn, human, beast, everybody that didn't have the blood. And they were immediately let go. That very night, they left that next day, which was supposed to have been a new year for the children of Israel. Really and truly, Nisan 1 is the new year for the nation of Israel. But now they got a silver new year. They got a silver new year, and also which they call Rosh Hashanah. Now, we're not going to get into that because that takes place, I think, in September somewhere on our calendar. But nevertheless, the Feast of Passover commemorate when they left Egypt. God told them that to make haste. They didn't eat no leaven. They didn't even have time to bake the bread right. The unleavened bread. It was flat as a biscuit, flat. They had to do that and roast the lamb by fire, and they would eat it in haste with bitter herbs. The bitter herbs got significance of the bitter bondage that they had suffered for over 400 years there in Egypt. And God told Moses that he was going to let them go. And so at that particular time, on that very next day after that night of terror, when they sat and they ate the Passover, that very next day, which was Nisan 1, Nisan, that was a new year for the children of Israel. And they were to celebrate that perpetually forever. And they would tell the story to their young ones from generation to generation. That's where we get Passover from. But it's a feast of the Lord. Remember that. It's a feast of the Lord that they were supposed to keep perpetually for generation to generation. We are in that season now. But it's a special time because not only is it a Passover this time, but it's also a Shemitah year. Shemitah, I told y'all what Shemitah means. Shemitah, that's like a Sabbath year. 1 and 7, that they were supposed to let their land rest. But the Jews did not let their land rest for 490 years. And so God put them in exile, in captivity in Babylon for 70 years. 1 year for each 6 that they missed. So that totaled up to 70 years because of the 490 years that they did not let the land rest. That's where the significance of the Shemitah come from. Now, it's also not only is a Shemitah year, but it's immediately following the Passover is going to be what? Jubilee. All debts set free. Everybody in Israel, no matter what they owe, as of this year, the debt will be canceled. All debts will be wiped clean. That's also that's happening during this cycle. So it's a lot riding on this tetrad. And all these signs, they were put there by God. Man didn't do it. So we don't have to worry about, don't start talking about man-made this. No, man didn't have nothing to do with this. This is all God ordained. God ordained by himself. So what we need to do is setting ourselves in line. Me, myself, I don't know what to do no more than to do what I always have done, and that's trust in God. In other words, we know that Jesus is our captain. He rose from the dead. It was proof. He was seen of over 500 witnesses at one time. He rose and he lives now forever. Standing at the right hand of God. In other words, he's seated. But I believe he stands when one of his saints come home. I believe that. But right now he's seated at the right hand of the Father, waiting for his Father to hit the big drum. Now, what do many man mean by the big drum? There's going to be a time when Christ is going to be told, go do what you got to do. People, we know Jesus is going to come back and he's going to set this world right. Now, you know what? It's not, this world right now is very, very shaky. It's trembling. All the mess going on, we cannot do anything about it but just speak against it. Those of us that believe, we must always tell the truth, regardless of what. Even if it means our own lives are in jeopardy, we must speak and tell the truth. We must let the world know that there is a God in heaven. There is a God in heaven. And one day, Christ, the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, he's coming to set this world straight. He's going to rule right there in Jerusalem, 1,000 years. He's going to have his reign on this world just like all the other world kingdoms have had their chance to rule. Jesus is going to rule too. And I mean, judgment and wrath is going to be, in other words, Jesus is not going to ask the ACLU anything. When about, like, you know, like the 10 Commandments and all that, can you pray in school? Jesus is not going to ask anybody anything. This is going to be done. We, his saints, we are going to carry out his judgments. We're going to carry out his precepts. We're going to carry out all of his documentation. Whatever he documents, we're going to make certain that it be in place. Wherever on this earth, wherever we are assigned, you can assure that justice is going to be sure and it's going to be swift. Jesus is going to rule with a rod of iron. And if you read your Bible correctly, even after all of the 1,000 years of peace and good living, Satan is going to be let loose out of his prison one more time. And do you know, people, that he's going to still get people to follow him? After people have seen the goodness of Jesus reigning for 1,000 years on this earth, he's going to still be able to get some of us fools to follow him. And God going to strike him down just like that. He's going to end it. And at the end of this whole thing, it's going to be the white throne judgment, people. Yes, the white throne judgment. And he said in the book of Revelation, whosoever name was not found written in the Lamb's book of life was thrown into the lake of fire, where the false prophet, that old Antichrist is, and the devil himself will be thrown in there, and death and hell will be cast into the lake of fire. Death is the last enemy that shall be destroyed. Therefore, we must teach and preach the truth, people. That's how come I tell everybody. Make for certain that you read and study. Don't go out and try to teach people stuff that you ain't did your study. You cannot do it because you will lead people wrong. Just like this guy that keep talking about the thing going to be the blood moon Friday. No, it's Saturday. It's Saturday. But that is very minute. But I'm just saying you got to be careful when you're teaching that you won't transfer error. Therefore, and then if you do transfer some error, because all of us human, we are subject to make a mistake now. So, but if you study, if you see yourself done made a mistake, go back and correct it. You go back and say, oh, y'all, I made a mistake here. I said this, but this is what I found out. I shouldn't have said that. This is the way we should rightly divide the word of truth. People, let's get on the ball about this thing. It's nothing to be afraid of. I'm telling you, don't be afraid of these blood moons. There is nothing to be afraid of. Whatever's going to happen definitely will be with Israel. But all the rest of the world gonna feel the repercussions of it. It's just like shock waves after an earthquake. You're gonna feel the tremors. But you don't have to don't be afraid. Look, we serve a great king. Whatever it's gonna be, just like God took care of Israel in Egypt, when all those plagues came on Egypt people, they didn't mess with the children of Israel down in Goshen. And that's the same way I feel about it right now in this day and time. Whatever God's going to do with the world, quote unquote, unsaved, whatever judgment he passed on the world, it's not going to hurt you as a believer. As a believer in Christ, I believe it's going to pass over you. Don't worry about that. Because just like God he's not limited in his power. He can do something. He can make it rain on this house and the next house next door won't touch it. That's just the power of God. So just as he took care, and I do believe the Passover is a very, very much picture of the end time. He let the Israelites stay right down in Egypt while all the mess was going on, but none of it touched touched the children of Israel down in Goshen. And if you can remember now, when the judgment fell, that final judgment fell on, a lot of people think the final judgment fell on Egypt when the angel of death, they said, came through, but I said God came through. When God came through and did that, you would think that was the last big plague, but no, it wasn't. The last big plague with Egypt was when he drowned them in the Red Sea. That was getting rid of them off of his children back forever. Because, see, as long as it had been a military and Egypt would have been in power, they would have been forever forsaken and pushing toward his kids. And I believe that's the same thing is going to be in the end time. God's gonna incubate his believers through a lot of the mess that's going on in the world right now. God is already doing it. But it's going to be a time, I believe, up until a lot of people saying the rapture. The rapture is a type of Red Sea. When he opened that Red Sea up, he let the children through to safety. He drowned their enemy. Now I believe that's perhaps, now I say this is just my belief. I believe that this is exactly the way he perhaps might do things. I don't know how God's going to do things. I don't claim to know God's ways. I'm just saying this is my opinion from looking at the Exodus, and we're going to Exodus out this world one day. He opened the sea and drowned the enemy. He let his children through. He's going to open the sky, let us through. He's going to take care of the ones that are left on this earth. Sinner man. The word, the sinner man, the Antichrist, the beast, however you want to call it. All of this going to go on, is going to have to. But I do believe that when that second coming, when Jesus' second coming, when he come back to put a stop to them that are trying to hurt and to destroy his people and divide his land, that is when we come back with Christ. Now, I wish I could sit here and tell y'all exactly when we're going to go up. I don't know. But I do know we're going up. I don't know when. But we're going to have to go up we're going to have to be up there with him in order to come back with him. So if we are following him on white horses, we got to be up there to do that, people. So there is a time to where we've got to be caught up. Because the Bible tells us that there's going to be a catching away. But it's just the problem is, many man can't tell you when that's going to be. But believe me or not, we are going up. So with that being said, I just hope that I just wanted to go in and point that out about how we can mislead people. Don't scare people half to death. Tell them you got to give. Jesus came that we may have life and that we may have it more abundantly. That's the way it is. So with that being said, this is me, the man, saying whatever you get into. If God's not in it, best you come out of it because it's going to come to nothing. This is me, the man, saying peace. Goodbye.